Good morning, Mr. Smith, the CIO of XYZ Semiconductor Limited. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. Allow me to introduce our cybersecurity team. Next, with me today, or Anik Siva. Next, with me today are Anik Sivahariharan and Aiman. Together, we have been conducting a thorough assessment of our company's critical assets and their associated risks. Next, this is our first asset. Next, and it is about scattered network and nodes. Its focus on reliability and operational continuity, ensuring that the SCADA network and nodes to operate reliably and efficiently to control and monitor core manufacturing operations. Legal compliance, ensuring the creation, preservation, and availability of records required by law to avoid fines and legal sanctions. Next. So first we have vulnerabilities. Outdated SCADA systems often lack security features and are more susceptible to exploits. The risk is assessed with a likelihood of 3 and an impact of 4, resulting in a risk stability score of 12. To mitigate this risk, it is recommended to upgrade or replace outdated SCADA systems with modern versions that include robust security features and to implement regular security assessments and patches. The responsibility for addressing this risk lies with the IT infrastructure team or SCADA system administrators. The status of this risk is currently identified. Next. Next, we have threats. The second risk, R02, involves accidental errors due to human mistakes during system operation or configuration, which can disrupt SCADA functionality. This risk has a likelihood and impact of 3 each, resulting in a severity score of 9. Mitigation involves extensive training programs, increased automation, and strict change management procedures. The IT infrastructure team, SCADA system administrators, and the training and deployment team are responsible for addressing these risks, both of which are currently identified. Next. Next, we have risk severity. The risk register identifies as a technical risk R03 for the scattered network, with a moderate likelihood of cyber attacks or system failures due to robust security measures, regular updates, and employee training. The risk is assessed with a likelihood of 3 and impact of 2, resulting in severity score of 6. Mitigation strategies include continuously updating security protocols, conducting regular security audits and penetration testing, and providing regular cybersecurity training for employees. The cybersecurity team or IT security manager is responsible for addressing this risk, which is currently identified. Next. Next, we have risk treatments. The risk register identifies an personal risk R04 related to enforcing strong password policies and improving physical security around SCADA systems. The likelihood and impact of these risks are both assessed at 2, resulting in a severity score of 4. Mitigation measures include enforcing strong password policies, implementing multi-factor authentication for SCADA access, and enhancing physical security with access controls, surveillance, and restricted entry points. The IT security team is responsible for addressing this risk, which is currently identified. Next. Next, we will go to countermeasures. First, we have policies. CM01 focuses on establishing policies for secure and standardized communication protocols within the SCADA network to reduce the likelihood of risk identified under R004. The objective is to ensure reliable and efficient network operation and not functionality. Implementation steps include developing policies for secure protocols, evaluating and selecting appropriate options, and conducting testing and training for personnel. Required resources include SCADA communication protocols, software, and involvement from network engineers and SCADA administrators. The IT security team is responsible for implementation peak attainment from July 15 to August 15, 2024, currently marked as in progress. Next. Next, we have procedures. CM02 involves the development of baseline and expanded vulnerability trees for an original system, followed by populating an impact analysis table to calculate threat impact index values. The countermeasure aims to minimize the impact of risks identified under R003. Implementation steps include creating vulnerability trees, conducting effect analysis to determine threat impact index values, and predicting vulnerabilities for mitigation. Required resources include vulnerability assessment tools like NSOS, as well as involvement from security analysis and the risk management team. The implementation timeline spans from July 20 to August 2024, and the countermeasures is currently in progress. Next, we have controls. CM03 involves implementing risk management controls aimed at reducing the likelihood of risk identified under R007. This includes conducting risk assessments for both baseline and security enhanced versions of the system, selecting and integrating appropriate risk management controls, and establishing monitoring mechanism to assess control effectiveness and make necessary updates. Required resources include risk management software such as Riskware and in the involvement of risk managers, security consultants, and the risk management team. The planned timeline for implementation is from August 1 to September 15, with the countermeasure currently in the planning stage. Next, we have people. M04 addresses the need CM04 addresses the need to minimize the impact of risk associated with the growing complexity of SCADA system, specifically focusing on R006. The countermeasure involves evaluating the skills of SCADA system engineers and cybersecurity specialists through a skills assessment process. Subsequently, a training plan will be developed to address identified skill gaps with an emphasis of ongoing skill development and certificates to ensure continuous improvement. The human resources and training department will oversee implementation with a planned timeline from August 10 to September 30. Currently, the countermeasure is in the planning stage. Next, next, next we have risk assignment, which the asset is files and data integrity, which focus on data integrity and availability, ensuring the integrity and availability of critical data stored on the file servers. Next, we have vulnerabilities. The risk register identifies a technical risk R05 associated with security issues and attacks on cloud storage, which faces various security challenges. The risk is assessed with a likelihood of 3 and impact of 4, resulting in a risk severity score of 12. Mitigation strategies include choosing reputable cloud service providers with strong security measures and compliance certifications, encrypting sensitive data both in transit and at rest, and implementing access controls by monitoring for unauthorized access or unusual activity. The responsibility for addressing this risk lies with the cloud security team or the cloud service provider. The status of the risk is currently identified. Next, we have threats. The risk register identifies as a compliance risk R06 associated with cloud users storing sensitive personal or business data in the cloud environments. The risk is assessed with likelihood of 3 and impact of 4, resulting in a risk severity score of 12. Mitigation strategies include classifying data based on sensitivity and applying appropriate access controls, implementing data encryption and anonymization where applicable, and regularly auditing data handling practices to ensure compliance with relevant regulations. The responsibility for addressing these risks lies with data governance team or the compliance officer. The status of this risk is currently identified. Next, we have risk severity. The risk register identifies as operational risk associated with insider attacks where individuals with access to sensitive data pose a moderate risk due to potential data loss. The risk is assessed with likelihood of 3 and an impact of 4, resulting in the risk severity score of 12. Mitigation strategies include implementing comprehensive access control and least privilege principles, monitoring user activities and network traffic for anomalies indicative on insider threats or external attacks, and utilizing intrusion detection systems and prevention intrusion prevention system to quickly respond to potential threats. The responsibility for addressing this lies with the IT security team or the security operations center. The status of this risk is currently identified. Next, we have risk treatments. Risk treatments too. Okay, so we have the risk register identifies a technical risk R08 associated with the hierarchical key technique, which combines record sharing and key hierarchy derivation with a user password. The risk is assessed with a likelihood of 2 and an impact of 3, resulting in a risk severity score of 6. Mitigation strategies include implementing robust cryptographic protocols and key management practices using secure key generation, storage, and distribution mechanisms, and regularly updating accuracy algorithm and reviewing key lifecycle management processes. The responsibility for addressing this risk lies with the encryption key and management team. The status of this risk is currently identified. Next, Next, we have countermeasures. Policies. Policies CM05 aims to reduce the likelihood of risk associated with security vulnerabilities in manufacturing and control systems as outlined in M005. The countermeasure involves studying relevant ISA SP99 technical reports to review and analyze security technologies. Recommendations from the risk report will be integrated into existing systems, followed by rigorous testing to ensure proper implementation. Documentation of testing outcomes will also be conducted to track effectiveness and compliance. Implementation teams include security analysis, researchers, and the IT security teams. The planned timeline for this countermeasure is from September 1 to September 30, currently in the planning stage. Next, we have procedures. CM06 focuses on minimizing the impact of risks associated with industrial system aligning with the objectives or R002. The countermeasure involves reviewing NIST SP 80082 to study and identify specific functional and security assurance requirements. These requirements will then be adapted and integrated into the system designed to enhance protection measures. Validation activities will follow to ensure that implemented measures comply with the established requirements. With comprehensive documentation of compliant outcomes, the implementation team includes system architect, cybersecurity expert, and the IT security team. The planned implementation timeline spans from September 15 to October 15, and the countermeasure is currently in planning phase. Next, Next, we have controls. SAM07 aims to reduce the likelihood of risk associated with system vulnerabilities as outlined in R001 using an IST-SP 80082 as a guide. This countermeasure involves analyzing the document to understand system topology strengths and suggested security countermeasures. Based on this analysis, appropriate countermeasures will be selected and implemented. Effectiveness will be tested, followed by the establishment of maintenance procedures to ensure ongoing security. The implementation team includes security consultants, system administrators, and the IT security team. The plan timeline is from October 1 to October 31, currently in the planning stage. Next, Next, we have people. SIM08 focuses on minimizing the impact of risks associated with file server security, particularly addressing the concerns outlined in R008. The countermeasure begins with a comprehensive risk assessment to identify specific threats and vulnerabilities affecting file servers. Subsequently, a countermeasure plan will be designed, deployed, and configured to enhance file server protections. Regular testing of these protections will ensure the effectiveness with ongoing reviews and updates implemented as necessary to maintain robust security measures. Required resources include file server security software, and the implementation team comprises IT administrators, cybersecurity personnel, and the IT security team. The planned implementation timeline is scheduled from November 1 to December 15, currently in the planning stage. Now I'm gonna let Anik to present about his asset. Next, next. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Aizam. So, good morning, Mr. Smith, the CIO for XYZ Semiconductor Limited. So, thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. So, allow me to introduce myself, Muhammad Anik Fahmi. So, I will present the second assets, so which is a file server. So, file server focus on data storage and organization and data security. Next. Next. Okay, so we'll start for the first one is vulnerability. So the first one is a malware infection. Pose a significant technical risk to file server, potentially causing data corruption, unauthorized access, and service disruption. With a likelihood of 4 and an impact of 4, the risk severity is calculated as 16. To mitigate this risk, robust antivirus and anti-malware software should be implemented across all file servers and endpoints, and systems should be regularly updated and patched to fix vulnerabilities. The IT security team is responsible for addressing these identified risks. Next. Yeah, so the second one is the insider threat. So, insider threat represent an operational risk where employee or contractor with malicious intent or negligence can misuse their access privilege to steal, modify, or delete data. This risk has a likelihood 3 and high impact of 5, resulting in a severity of 15. Mitigation strategies include providing regular data security training to employees and establishing clear policies for reporting and addressing suspicious behavior. The human resource and IT security team are responsible for this identified risk. Next. So for the risk severity is they are moderate risk severity. So poor access control is a technical risk that significantly increase the possibility of a data breach with likelihood of fall and impact of fall, leading to a severity 60. Mitigation involve regularly reviewing and updating access control lists to ensure only authorized personnel have access to sensitive information and conducting regular audit and penetration testify to identify the weaknesses. So the IT security team is managing this risk, which is currently in progress. Next. So for the risk treatment is a quick malware detection, which is the ability to quickly detect and mitigate malware is a technical risk with a likelihood 3 and impact of 4, resulting in a severity of 12. Effective mitigation strategy include deploying advanced malware detection tools that utilize behavioral analysis and machine learning, ensuring all systems have a real-time antivirus and anti-malware protection enabled and regularly updated. The IT security team is working on this risk, which is in progress. Next. So we're going to our countermeasure. So the first one for our policy is access control policy. This involves defining and enforcing comprehensive policy for user authentication and authorization to manage access to system and data effectively. Related risk IDRO3 highlight that poor access control increase the risk of data breach. The objective of this countermeasure is to reduce the likelihood of unauthorized access and potential data breach. Implementation steps include assessing the current access control mechanism, developing detailed policy for access management, and implementing a role-based access control, which is RBAC system. The resource required are IT security personnel, access control software, and training program. The responsibility party for executing this countermeasure is this IT security team. The status of this countermeasure is currently planned. Next. So our procedure is a backup and recovery procedure. This countermeasure focus on establishing regular data backup procedure to ensure that critical financial data is securely backed up and can be recovered in case of data loss. Related risk ID is RO1 addresses the risk of malware infection leading to the data loss. The objective is to ensure that critical financial data is backed up securely, and implementation steps include developing a backup and a recovery plan, implementing regular backup procedure, testing this procedure, and documenting and reviewing them. The resource required are backup software and IT system, and responsible party is the IT administrator. And its status is currently planned. Next. So for the control is network security. So this involves employing strategies, practices, and technologies to protect network integrity, confidentiality, and availability from cyber threat and authorized access. Related risk ID is RO6, pertains to network security risk. The objective is to protect network and data from cyber threat and unauthorized access. Implementation steps include implementing firewall and intrusion detection system, reviewing API security settings, monitoring network traffic, and updating software. Resources required include the firewall hardware or software and IT staff. The responsible party is the IT security team, and the status is in progress. Next. So for the people is we can do a security awareness training. So this is involve participating in or providing security awareness training to educate employees on common threat and preventive measure. Related risk ID RO2 focus on insider threat. The objective is to educate employee on common threat and how to avoid them. Implementation step include developing of sourcing training materials, scheduling and conducting training session, and updating material based on feedback and emerging threats. The resource required training materials are trainer, and the responsible party for this countermeasure include HR, which is human resource, and IT security team. So for the status is currently in progress. Next. Next. So we go to our number two risk assessment, which is a database. So database is focused on data retrieval and data integrity. All right, next. So we go to our vulnerabilities. So Insider threat. The security risks originating from the within organization, including current or former employee, contractor, or associate who may misuse their inside information. So the risk category is operational, indicating involved procedures and practices with likelihood of 3 and impact of 4. The risk severity is 12, represented a moderate to high risk. The mitigation strategy is to implement strict access control and follow the principle of least privilege to limit access to sensitive information. The resource required include personnel from the development and IT security team, and the responsible party is both the development and IT security team. The timeline and status indicate this risk is currently identified and does not have a specific timeline yet. Next. Yes, so the threat is insecure APIs. Insecure APIs pose significantly security concern for database and web application, as API allow different software systems to interact and potentially expose vulnerability. Risk category is technical and highlighting a focus on the system design and security with a likelihood of 4 and impact of 4. The risk severity is 16, indicating a moderate level of risk. Mitigation strategy involve implementing strong authentication and authorization mechanism for API access and use encryption for data transmission to protect data in transit. So the resource required include a development in IT teams and to manage the secure API. And the responsible party in this team is IT security. So the timeline and status shows that this risk identified but does not yet have a specific end date. Next. So for the risk severity is a lack auditing of monitoring. A lack of auditing and monitoring result in insufficiently tracking analysis of database activities and security event, potentially missing security incident. So for the risk category is operational, indicating involved organization processes and procedure. The likelihood of the risk is 3 and the impact is 4, giving a risk severity of 12. So the mitigation strategy is to implement comprehensive logging all the database and security events and use security information and event management system to analyze and correlate logs for unusual activity. Resources required include SIEM system and IT security personnel, and the responsible party is the IT security team. The timeline and the status reflect that this risk identified and in the planning phase. Next. For the risk treatment tool is a role-based access control RBAC. So they are regulates access to database system based on user roles, ensuring that permission align with a job function. So risk category is technical, focusing on system security configuration with a likelihood of 2 and impact of 4. Risk severity is 8, indicating a moderate risk. The mitigation strategy is to define and enforce roles permission based on their principle of least privilege and permission to match current job function and responsibilities. So resources required include collaboration between IT and human resource teams, and the responsible party is both teams. In the timeline is ongoing with regular updates, and the status shows this countermeasure in the progress. Next. So we are going to countermeasure. So this is our policies number 2. So data protection policy. So data protection policy ensure that an organization data is managed securely and compliance with applicable laws and regulation. So the related risk ID is RO5, addresses insider threat and the risk improper data handling. The objective of this countermeasure is to ensure that data is handled, stored and managed securely and in accordance with the legal requirement. So implementation step involve a developing comprehensive policy, ensuring compliance with relevant laws, implementing data protection practices. So the resources required include policy document and a compliance team. The responsible party for this countermeasure is a compliance team, and the timeline and status are not specified for the start and end dates. So this countermeasure is currently in plan. Next. So for our procedure is a data auditing procedure. So they are essential for maintaining data security, ensuring compliance, and detecting and responding to security incidents. So the related risk ID is RO7, highlight the lack of auditing monitoring are a significant risk. So the objective to maintain data security, ensure compliance, and detect potential security incident. Implementation step include implementing database auditing tools, defining auditing procedure, and updating this procedure. The resources required are auditing tools and IT staff. The responsible party for this countermeasure is the IT staff, and the timeline spans from July 10, 2024 to August 7, 2024 with the status marked as planned. Next. So for the control is a security policies and procedure. So we are doing security policy policies and procedure to provide a structured framework for managing a protected sensitive data within the database environment. So the objective is establish a secure, compliant database environment. This policy, sorry. The objective is establish a secure, compliant database environment, and implementation step is involve developing security policy and procedure, implementing and enforcing this policy, and regularly reviewing and updating them. So the resources required include a policy document and IT system. Response, responsible party for this countermeasure is IT security team with a timeline and status indicating that is in progress and ongoing. So next. So last kali, for the last year, database activity monitoring, which is DAM. Uh, is provide a comprehensive approach to tracking and analyzing database activity to ensure data security and regulatory compliance. Related risk ID RO4 focus on the need real-time monitoring to detect and mitigate malware threats. The objective is to track and analyze database activity to ensure data security and compliance with regulation. Implementation step include implementing DAM tools, defining roles and permission for monitoring. So the resource required are DIM tools and IT system, and the responsible party is the IT security team, and the timeline is from July 10, 2024 with ongoing effort, and the status is in the progress. All right, I think that's all from me. I can pass it to Shiva. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ani. So now my name is Shiva, so I'm going to present about the asset number three. For the risk assessment one, the asset is actually financial server, and we are going to focus in ensuring the integrity and also the accuracy of financial data. So for the vulnerability, which is the research misconduct, we will be handling the fabrication, falsification of plagiarism in research can lead to incorrect financial reporting. Mitigation involves regular audits, strict penalties, peer reviews, and validation against original data resources. So the risk category is data integrity, likelihood is 3, impact is 4, disability is 12. So the risk owner is research integrity officer, the status is ongoing monitoring and audit. So for the second part, which is threat, we will be talking about conflicts of interest, which is biases in data interpretation and reporting can affect financial data accuracy. Mitigation includes conflict of interest policies, mandatory disclosure, independent reviews, and regular ethical training. So the risk category is data integrity, likelihood is 2, impact is 3, disability is 6. Risk owner is compliance office, status is regular policy reviews and updates. So for the third is disability, which is moderate. The lack of proper guidance, which is errors in financial data processing, can arise from improper data practices. So the mitigation involves comprehensive training programs, standardized data entry procedures, and also regular assessments. So the risk category is data management, likelihood is 3, impact is 2, risk severity is 6, risk owner data management team. So the stated is training ongoing. So for risk treatment, which is maintenance data analysis process, ensuring data accuracy and integrity through regular maintenance of the data analysis process. Mitigation involves routine schedules for data cleaning, validation checks, software updates, and dedicated staff. So the risk category is data management, likelihood is 4, impact is 3, risk severity is 12. Risk owner is financial analyst team. Status implementation in progress. So now I'm going to present about countermeasures. We start from policies, which is establish a robust policy framework to mitigate risk of research misconduct and ensure compliance with industry standards. This involves reviewing and updating existing research policies to include strict guidelines against publication, falsification, and plagiarism, integrating cybersecurity standards to protect research data integrity, and communicating updated policies across the organization with regular training. So the resources require policy development expertise, cybersecurity resources, training materials. Responsible party is research integrity officer. Timeline is 10 July 2024 until 10 October 2024. Status is ongoing. So for the procedures, which is ensure informed decision making and robust data protection by leveraging existing research and cybersecurity best practices. This includes developing a protocol for conducting thorough literature surveys focused on preventing research misconduct, conducting cybersecurity assessments to protect research data from unauthorized access or breaches, and integrating findings into research protocols and data management practices. Resources required for this is access to research databases, cybersecurity assessment tools. Responsibility party is research coordinator. Timeline is 10 July 2024 until 21 August 2024. Status is ongoing. So for the control part, which is enhanced research integrity and data security through effective performance monitoring and control measures. Entails developing and implementing performance measures to monitor adherence to research integrity policies, implementing cybersecurity controls and regularly reviewing and updating performance measures and controls based on feedback and assessment results. So the resources required IT system for performance monitoring, cybersecurity tools. Responsible party is performance management team and IT security team. Timeline is 10 July 2024 until 10 September 2024. Status is ongoing. So for the last part for this, which is people, foster a culture of research integrity and cybersecurity awareness among staff by conducting regular training sessions on research integrity and cybersecurity best practices, encouraging reporting of potential misconduct and security issues through anonymous channels, and establishing feedback mechanism to continuously improve research integrity and cybersecurity practices. So the resources required training materials, anonymous reporting tools. Responsible party is human resource. Timeline is 10 July until 10 November 2024. Status is ongoing. So we are going to risk assessment 2, which is the asset is procurement server. So we'll be focusing on ensuring the integrity and availability of procurement data. So for the vulnerability part, which is unpatched software, the procurement server may run outdated software with vulnerabilities. Mitigation includes rigorous patch management, regular vulnerability scans, and scheduled maintenance. So the risk category is technical, likelihood is 4, impact is 4, risk severity is 16. So the risk owner is IT security, status is ongoing. So for the threats, which is malware attacks, cyber criminals may deploy malware targeting the procurement server. Mitigation involves advanced endpoint protection, robust email filtering, regular cybersecurity training, and maintaining up-to-date backups. So the risk category is technical, likelihood is 3, impact is 5, risk severity is 15. Risk owner is IT security, status is ongoing. So for the third part, which is risk severity, the risk level is moderate, which is unauthorized access to procurement data can lead to financial and reputational damage. Mitigation includes strong access control, multi-factor authentication, data encryption, and regular access log audits. This category is operational. Likelihood is 3, impact is 4, risk severity is 12. So the risk owner is IT security, status is still ongoing. So for the risk treatment 2, which is regular monitoring and incident response, which is proactive monitoring and incident response are crucial for detecting and mitigating security incidents. Mitigation involves continuous monitoring with SIEM tools, a well-defined incident response plan, regular security assessments, and timely updates of incident response procedures. So the risk category is still operational, likelihood is 4, impact is 3, risk severity is 12. This owner is still IT security, status still ongoing. So now we are going to see about the countermeasures. We start from the policies, which is ensure comprehensive security management by adhering to ISO 27001 standards, which provide a systematic approach to managing sensitive company information, ensuring its security, and maintaining trust with stakeholders. This involves developing and documenting comprehensive security policies aligned with ISO standards, conducting a thorough gap analysis, implementing necessary changes, and conducting regular audits to maintain compliances. So the resource required is ISO 27001 documentation, security experts and audit tools. Responsible party is IT security compliances team. Timeline is 10 July until 10 January 2025. Status is ongoing. So for the procedure, which is IRP, incidents response plans, establish clear and detailed procedures for identifying, responding to, and recovering from security incidents, ensuring minimal impact on operation and data integrity. This includes developing detailed IRP, conducting regular training sessions and simulations, regularly reviewing and updating IRPs, and ensuring IRPs are easily accessible and communicated to all relevant personnel. Uh, So for the next, which is controls, which is monitoring controls, implement robust monitoring controls to continuously detect and respond to malicious activities, ensuring the integrity and availability of procurement data. This involves deploying continuous monitoring tools such as SIEM, security information and event management systems, establishing automated alert mechanism, conducting regular reviews and analysis of monitoring logs, and regularly updating and defining monitoring parameters. So the resources required is SIEM tools, monitoring software and trained personnel. Responsible party is IT Security Network Operation Center (NOC). Timeline is 10 July 2024 until 10 September 2024. Status is still ongoing. So for the last part, which is people, which is we will be talking about training and awareness, which enhance the security awareness and skills of all employees through regular training programs and awareness campaigns, reducing the likelihood of human error and incident threats. This includes developing comprehensive security training programs, conducting regular awareness campaigns and training sessions, evaluating the effectiveness of training programs, and continuously updating training materials. So the resources required is training materials, awareness campaign tools, and trainers. And the timeline is 10 July 2024 until 10 November 2024, and the status is ongoing. So now I will pass to my friend, which is Aiman. Thank you.
Thank you, Siva. And hello, Mr. Smith. My name is Aiman, and I will be assessing our company's fourth and last key asset. For my first risk assessment, I would like to inform you, Mr. Smith, that the IT security team is responsible for managing the risks. Next. Next. The first risk identified is related to weak passwords which are easily guessed or cracked. This technical risk has a likelihood of 4 and an impact of 4, resulting in a severity score of 16. To mitigate this risk, it is recommended to implement strong password policies, enforce regular password changes, and use password managers to generate and store strong, unique passwords. Next. The second risk pertains to cybercriminals, who are individuals or groups seeking to steal sensitive information or credentials, classified as an operational risk and has a risk severity of 20. To mitigate this risk, the strategy includes conducting regular security training for employees, monitoring for suspicious activities and anomalies, and deploying advanced threat detection and response systems. Next. The third risk is a compliance risk, RO3, related to the use of email for business communications, where the likelihood of unauthorized access and data leakage is considered moderate despite stringent security policies. Next. The risk register identifies a technical risk, RO4, related to email security, specifically aimed at preventing unauthorized access and data breaches. The likelihood of such incidents leads to a severity score of 12. To mitigate this risk, it is recommended to enable MFA, leverage ATP to scan emails and encrypt emails and attachments to ensure secure communications. Next. Next. Moving on to the first countermeasure, I would like to inform that the IT security team and IT department will be responsible for managing the risks. Next. Jangan next. Rewind balik. The first countermeasure policy focuses on implementing email retention policies to minimize the impact of risk, RO3. The objective is to ensure that emails are stored for a set period before being automatically deleted. The implementation steps include defining retention periods and configuring retention policies in Office 365. The resources required for this implementation are an Office 365 admin and policy documentation. Next. The first procedure focuses on establishing a patch management procedure to regularly update and patch all software, particularly email clients, to mitigate risks associated with unpatched or outdated software vulnerabilities. This procedure addresses risks RO5 and RO8 with the objective reducing their likelihood. The implementation steps include creating a patch management schedule. The resources required are IT personnel and patch management tools. Next. CMO3/2 involves implementing email encryption for emails and attachment using Office 365 built-in encryption options such as OME to ensure that only intended recipients can decrypt and read the messages. This control addresses risks RO6 with the objective of minimizing its impact. The implementation steps including enabling email encryption in Office 365 and monitoring and adjusting encryption settings as needed. Next. CMO4 focuses on conducting regular training and awareness programs for employees. This session aims to educate employees about the importance of strong passwords and recognizing phishing attempts. The implementation steps include developing training materials, scheduling training sessions, conducting the training, evaluating training effectiveness, and updating training as needed. Next. Next. Moving on to the last risk assessment, the last asset from the key asset is Microsoft Teams usage for business communications. Next. RO5 relates to unpatched software. If the Teams application or the underlying operating system is not regularly updated, it can have security vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit, resulting in a risk severity score of 12. Mitigation strategies include regularly updating devices and software to patch known vulnerabilities. Next. Moving on, RO6 is related to unencrypted data transmission. Unencrypted data transmission is vulnerable to interception by hackers, leading to risks such as identity theft, fraud, and intellectual property theft. This risk has a severity score of 10. Mitigation strategies include enabling end-to-end encryption for data transmission and regularly updating encryption protocols. Next. RO7 is associated with the use of Microsoft Teams for real-time business communication and collaboration. While it is essential to ensure that sensitive discussion and shared documents are protected, the platform's built-in security features help minimize risks. This risk is assessed a severity score of 6, which is very low. Next. For our final risk register, RO8 is related to the regular updating of devices and software to patch known vulnerabilities. This practice helps prevent exploitation by hackers. The risk is assessed with a severity score of 6. Mitigation strategies include implementing a policy for regular software updates and patches and using automated systems to ensure updates are applied promptly. Next. Next. This countermeasure policy focuses on defining and implementing roles and permissions for Microsoft Teams to manage access and control. This policy addresses risk RO7 with the objective of reducing its likelihood. The implementation steps include defining roles and permissions, configuring these roles in Microsoft Teams, communicating roles to users, and monitoring and adjusting roles as needed. Next. The second procedure involves conducting regular cybersecurity audits of Microsoft Teams usage to identify and mitigate potential risk. This procedure addresses risk RO3 with the objective of reducing its likelihood. The implementation steps include scheduling regular audit, performing audits using a standardized checklist, reporting findings, and implementing corrective actions. Next. CMO 7/3 focuses on implementing an IDS, intrusion detection system, to monitor network traffic and system logs for signs of attacks or unauthorized activities. This control addresses risk RO3, RO2. These implementation steps include selecting an appropriate IDS solution, installing the IDS on the network, configuring IDS policies, and monitoring IDS alerts to take necessary actions. Next. CMO8 involves developing and implementing incident response training programs to prepare employees for potential security breaches and ensure a swift and effective response to any incidents. This control addresses risks RO3, RO4, and RO8 with the objective of minimizing their impact. The implementation steps include developing training materials, scheduling training sessions, conducting the training, evaluating training effectiveness, and updating training as needed. That is all from us. Thank you again, Mr. Smith, for taking your time to meet us with day, and goodbye.